Hello and welcome to the demonstrational video on the 2017 Chausson Welcome 630. We'll just start by going around the outside and then we'll move on to the controls on the inside. So first things first, if we just come to the passenger side here, just put the key. So on the cab, the blinds are operated by pinching those two together and drawing this across like that, and then that's your blackout blinds for the cab. Same on the windscreen side of things, just pinch those two together and then draw the blind across. There's a little notch just there that makes way for the arm of the rear view mirror, and then it's a magnetic strip across the front here which corresponds onto another magnetic strip for the blind on the other side, and that's how you blank off the windscreen and the side window. So they just clip back into place. Just make sure they're clipped in, because as you go around the corner, if they're not clipped in properly, the blind can come across, which obviously you don't want. As you're drawing this back, try and keep this here straight, and you can see how that operates there by pushing up. Keep it straight as it comes back, and then that clips into position there. You can switch the airbag off here just with the key. Your tyre pressures are marked here, but it's worth just referring to the tyre itself, because some of these use specialist camping tyres. Your fuel is just here, and this also has the AdBlue chemical, so that needs to be topped up as well. So your diesel in here, your AdBlue additive into there. The AdBlue will come up on the cab and tell you when that needs filling. Doesn't need doing very often, but it will give you a warning and a countdown in mileage on the cab. So as we come to the front of the vehicle, to open the bonnet on this, you need to insert the key into this slot here. Firstly, turn it left, and that you'll feel it unlock. And then as you're lifting the bonnet, turn it to the right, and that will allow you to open up the bonnet. So underneath the bonnet, just point out some of the main features. You've got washer fluid, brake fluid, oil, power steering, dipstick for the oil. If you ever need to jump start this vehicle, then the positive terminal needs to be put onto that nodule there, and then the negative, or the earth, goes onto that loop there. So the black onto there, red onto there, and that's how you jump start from and to the vehicle, because the battery isn't underneath this area here, it's underneath the floor of the cab, and your coolant is just there. So as we make our way around the outside of the vehicle, you've got the chimney for the boiler. So when the boiler's in operation, this cover is a weather cover. You need to take that off by unclipping it at the bottom, and then you can see that it's just hinged on two lugs there for the top. So that needs to be taken off when the hot water boiler is in operation. So if you run it on gas and this cover is on, and the exhaust will come out of here, hit this cover and stop the boiler from working. So that cover needs to be off in order to get the boiler operational. To put it back on, put the lugs on the top, give it a tap, and that's the cover relocated. You've got the mains inlet to the vehicle here, so that's where your mains cable goes into. When the cable that goes into it has got a little lid on it that lifts up, and the lid slides into that groove there, and then it reveals the opening for the cable to go into there. To release it, you press that button there, push that down, and that will allow you to pull the cable out. This locker here next to that is the service locker. So you've got fuses and various other water fillers in there. I'll just open that up and we'll show you how that works. So that's the locker open. So in here, if you pull this leaf open here, we've got a bank of 12-volt fuses. So they are actually individually marked. So it'll show if you've got a power outage, let's say on your lights, it's clearly marked there that that's the light fuse. And they've got various other fuses there, so you'll have one for the pump, for example, etc, etc. Next to that, you've got your mains fuses. So that's like a domestic circuit breaker that you'd expect to see in a house. In order for that to work, they all have to be in the up position, as you can see they are now. If they are flipped down like that, then you won't get any mains coming into the vehicle, and you'll have to reset that by pushing that back up. You can test you've got mains coming into the vehicle by pressing that test button that's just there on that side. If you press that, it'll flip the circuit breaker down, and then you know that you've got mains coming into it, because it tests that there's a power supply coming in. So then you just push that back up, as I just did then, and then you know that you're good to go again on your mains. So as we close that back up, next to that is the water tank. So that's filled with a hose pipe. You just draw that arm across, unscrew, put the hose pipe into there and just fill it until it pours out. You can't overfill that. Should you ever need to clean out the tank, cleanse the tank, then you can unscrew this, and that's access into the tank. You can probably see that you can actually give there's water in here, you can see it with the level there. Don't know whether the video will show that, but to drain this down, there's 2 levels here as indicated by this sticker. So maxi level is in that position there. So this diagram is referring to that tap there, and then if you tip that up, it'll actually drain down to, I think it's 20 litres, so that you know that you're not carrying a lot of water. So if you push that up, it's the mini level, so it'll actually drain this water down to 20 litres. So in normal operation it should look like that. To completely drain the tank down, there's a tap underneath here, which is that one just there, and that will completely drain the freshwater tank down. This here is an exhaust for the diesel heating that is fitted to this vehicle. I'll show you the controls for that inside, but that's where it exhausts the fumes from the diesel heater. So if you see smoke coming out of that, it's not a problem, it's just that the heater is switched on, and that's where it's exhausting the diesel fumes. Next to that is the shower point. The shower head will be inside for this. You just literally push that into there, spin it around. You can see you've got hot and cold. That fully to the right is off, and the further you go to the left, the hotter that will become, and that's just plumbed in to the vehicle inside. So that is basically just a way of tapping into the water supply that's in the vehicle, and then you get a long hose with a shower head with a tap on the end of it, and then you can spray dirty boots or dog owners like this, because they can wash the dog off outside. Next one along is just access through into the garage and the storage area. You can let these shelves down here to give storage, or for tall items, keep them pegged up, and then you've got access there for storage for tall items. You've just got access around the back here, just again access through into the locker for the garage. Your camera's up there. Just keep that clean, the lens on there. If there's debris on the, sorry, if there's debris on it, you won't see through it, but when it's wet and there's water droplets on it, it gives a distorted image. So that's the hose that I've referred to for the outside shower point, and you can see how that would go into the side of the vehicle. You just push that in and then turn it to the left, and then that's the hose on the end, pressing that down to let the water spray out. You've got a winder for the awning in there. I know this customer's had a motorhome before, so they should be used to how the awning operates, but there is a separate video on our YouTube channel for awning operation. Next to that, we've got the toilet cassette. Now again, I know the customer that's buying this vehicle's had a motorhome before, so I'll just quickly show you. To get that toilet cassette out, you just lift that tab up, and there's an indication on the toilet itself inside the vehicle to tell you when that needs emptying. But I'll just drag that out and show you how to empty the toilet waste cassette. So when you pull that out, that's how the cassette looks. To empty it, you're just pulling that nozzle across, unscrewing the cap on the end, take that cap off, and then pour away, turn it upside down so that the nozzle is being fed, and then just literally pour away the liquid that's inside this cassette. As you're doing so, push this button in here, it lets air in as the liquid's coming out the other side. This requires the chemical or the sachets to break down the smells and the solids. So in order to fill that, you just slide that back there, turn that around, and then you can put the chemical and the a little bit of water into the bottom of here, and then it's ready to use again once you've emptied it. Okay, so now we're in the vehicle. The first thing next to the door is the control panel. So this is diesel heating. If you turn that around to the hottest temperature, that's the thermostat set to its hottest temperature. So you need to adjust that in accordance with the temperature that you require. When you first switch this on, it is quite noisy, but it'll calm down once it reaches its temperature. It'll also it can make the lights flicker because it draws quite a lot of power, but that's perfectly normal. It'll only do that when it's first starting up. It draws quite a lot of power when it first starts. Won't switch on today because the temperature outside is so hot. Then you've got your control panel here. So that switch there switches the 12 volt circuitry on. That is your lights. See, the lights have come on there. Now you will need that switched on in order to get your charger operational. The Chausson wire it so that button has to be switched on, and that activates the charger. Next one along is your water pump. Again, I'm sure you're aware of how that operates. So that pumps your water from your freshwater tank. You will need to purge the water out of the pipes when you first fill it with water. You need to push the air out of the pipes by switching on your tap. And wait until you get a pure flow of water, and then you know that there's no air left in the pipes. You've got your leisure battery readout, so we've got the power switched on, so you'd expect that to be just slightly lower than full. You've got your engine battery readout, so again in good condition. That's the fresh water tank, so we saw that there was water actually in this. The valeters will usually drain that down, but there's water in this, so that's reading correctly. This here is for the wastewater, so this light is illuminating, telling us that we've got wastewater in the vehicle. So I know I neglected to show you where that was, so we'll go outside and just do that now. But sorry, this light here is this one here. That's your wastewater. So when that illuminates, there's a light next to that. When that illuminates, that is when your wastewater is full and requires emptying. So just on the subject of the wastewater, just below where the toilet waste is, that's where the waste, as indicated by this here, that's where the wastewater tap is. So literally drive over the grid on the sites where the wastewater is, and then that handle there, if you pull that out, that releases the water out of the wastewater tank. Okay, so that's how you open and close the wastewater tank. So that should conclude the controls for the, well, on the control panel. If you've got mains coming in, it'll actually illuminate here to show you that you've got mains supply coming into the vehicle. So it's a useful thing that if you're struggling with any of the supply or you find you're not charging, then you know that you've got mains coming in, because it'll indicate on there on the control panel. Fridge. Basically just switch it on with this main switch here. Then you can manually select by pushing this button which power supply you want. So that's mains, 12 volt off the alternator, and gas. So you obviously need gas bottles on there for that to work. You need to be plugged in order for that to work, and you need the engine running in order for that to work. You can select A, which is automatic. It will automatically select the most relevant power source for the vehicle. So it'll try and find mains electric. If it can't find mains electric, then it will try and find gas. It'll try and ignite on gas. If it can't ignite on gas, it'll then look for 12 volt. You can see that it's warning us none of those have worked now, so We haven't got mains electric plugged in, there's no gas bottle, and the engine isn't running, so it's going to fail. This is your temperature control. So on a hot day like today, you want it to work a bit harder. On a really cold day, have it on the lower setting so that the fridge won't ice up, which it will. If it's working too hard, the fridge will ice up. There is a heater there, you need to defrost the fridge, so that's just what that is. If it comes up with a warning like this, switch it off by a long press on the on button, leave it for 20 seconds or so, and then start the process again, and it'll allow you to select your relevant power source. So if your mains goes off or you've run out of gas, then obviously reconnect the gas and you're good to go again. This model's been fitted with a television aerial. To operate that, you unscrew that there, and then you can push the aerial up through the roof to gain a better signal. This winder on the bottom here, you can wind that and the aerial sits flat like that on the roof, and then you can adjust it to and fro. Just make sure that's pulled down fully before you set off, otherwise you've got a pole hanging out the roof that can catch trees. So there is the amplifier box for the television signal, and that comes through to your television bracket here. To pull that out, you press that button in there, and that'll allow you to slide it out. Pull that down, and then that'll allow you to spin this, and you can also go up and down like that with it. So on to the bathroom. As I said, there's an indication on the toilet to actually tell you when it requires emptying, which is that red illuminated light there. So the toilet cassette, it just had water in it from when they were testing it on the pre-delivery inspection, so the valeter will obviously get that emptied. To flush the toilet, it's that button there. So the way you use the toilet is open up the blade, which I showed you how to fill and put the chemical into it. It's connected via that lever there. So open it up, use the toilet, press the flush button, and then close the blade back up, because you don't want to be travelling with the liquid slushing around in the toilet. So just make sure the blade is closed when you're travelling. The light switch for the bathroom is just there. Some people have struggled to find that. It is in a bit of a hidden away position. And then you've just got access through into the storage area at the back. The cargo nets there for the beds if you require them to stop you falling out of bed. There's a board for the shower to protect the shower base. Those there are winter covers for the fridge vents on the outside of the vehicle. Not required in the summer, obviously. We've got a repair kit there for the puncher repair kit. They don't come with a spare wheel. Shower, straightforward. It's just a mixer tap. Obviously, again, you need to purge the water through when you first fill up with gas. Just make sure these are left closed when you're travelling, because the plastic doors will flap about, and if inertia takes those, you'll crack the door. Okay, so onto the bed controls. These require a key for safety. To lower and heighten the bed, you need the key turned into that position, and then it's just up and down on these controls either side. Obviously the bed will come down to the same level as the seating here, and it's exactly the same on the left and right hand side of the bed. So the seat belts on these, they're hidden away underneath what would normally be a bench seat there, and to release those you take off the cushions like this, and then there's a lever just here that allows you to lift up this seat. So you lift up that seat like that, and then you've got your seat belt with the receiver for the seat belt latch. Close this like that, and then the passenger's legs sit down into there. You use the cushions that we've taken off to sit on the base there for the passenger to sit comfortably, and that's exactly the same on the other side. So I'm now sitting in that seat belted passenger seat. In front of that is the boiler. So that's the boiler unit there. It's important that you drain down this boiler unit. If water's left in there in very cold conditions and left to freeze, it can damage the boiler as well as the pipe work. So the way you do that is that little valve there. That's now in the closed position. If I lift it up like that, that will then drain all the water from the boiler onto the ground underneath the motorhome. So that's getting all the water out of the boiler and leaving it in a safe situation for winter storage. Just next to that, that's the water pump. Also, that's the charger unit. There's a little red light on the top, on the front there. I'll leave that switched on, but that's where the charger unit's housed. You know that it's working because there's an illumination on that little red light on the front there. The boiler controls are on the front of that cabinet. So what you've got here is the lower one is electric controls. So you've got 1 kilowatt of power on the upper position on electric, off. Lower position is 2 kilowatts of power on electric fuel. Upper one is gas, so you've got 50 degrees or 70 degrees on a gas fuel, so that is 50, lower one 70. Should that fail to ignite, which it will do now because we've not got a gas bottle on here, you'll get this red illumination to warn you that it's not lit. When you first put the gas on, you may need to do that 3 or 4 times because the boiler's trying to draw the gas through from the gas bottle. So you've got to switch it on, wait for the illumination to stay off, which it won't do, obviously it'll come on. Now it'll never light. You need when the red lights come on, you need to then switch it off and go through the process 3 or 4 times in order to get the boiler ignited. The table, as you can see, is in the lower position. To lower and heighten that, there's a control just here. So you're moving the key, which is in that, left or right, to allow the table to rise and fall. So as you can see, that's going up. It needs to be in the lower position to create the bed. So the bed is formed as part of this table. That's a support for the leaf table that comes across like that. And then there's an extra cushion that's required to make this into a double bed here. So to make the bed up, the table drops down into this level here, and then the cushion goes into there, and a further cushion bridges this gap with legs that sit down in the centre there.